This is the Beige and the Bold, and today we are watching Darmok. I'm Van Velding, and Riker making love to a beautiful woman.
And I'm Derek, and Geordi making love to a beautiful woman.
You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, engage. Jacket?
It's not here yet. Hold on, we have to wait for it. Wait for it. No, it's a thing. It's a whole presence. There it is. Okay, what the hell is this? I mean, this is like, I don't understand. Like, is he having a midlife crisis? Is that why his shoulder pads are leather?
I don't know. I believe Patrick Stewart asked for a jacket.
Is he like...
It's stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid.
Is there like a motorcycle club on like lower decks where they just ride around in a circle?
I mean, we will learn later that Patrick Stewart loves dune buggies, but like...
Okay.
There's no excuse for this nonsense. There's no excuse for it.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of those... like, it kind of felt as if they knew that he was going to get transported down into like a survival situation, so they needed some sort of survival looking costume and an excuse for him to have it on already, and they just kind of put this on and decided, we're not going to explain it, we're just going to go with it.
This jacket stays.
Wait,
it's going to be around.
What? What?
Like, this is what happens when you let Troy run around in a goddamn bell-bottom jumper. Like, it normalizes it, Derek. It's normalized. And this is what happens when you don't draw a line here. You don't draw the line here and refuse to allow people to go any further. This is the result. This stupid f***ing jacket. Yeah. I had this action figure as a kid, and it was the worst.
There was an action figure with that jacket? Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. You know how action figures are. By the time this series was done, they're like autumnal underlights Troy with like her hair up.
Yeah.
And like Picard from that one episode where he was in shorts. Like, action figures are cray, man.
Okay, do they have him in his captain's pajamas?
I mean, they would have if the show ran for one more season.
Yeah, probably.
All right.
And so this frustrates me. We have a communication problem. We have someone who's telepathic, but we don't give her any sort of agency to help solve this problem. And
she's empathic, and she's providing important context about the peacefulness of their intention.
Well, we don't define what empathy is, and so Geordi just becomes like, well, they seem like they're fine. I was like, yes, all of us who have any sort of emotional intelligence can also do that. Give me something I can use, Troy.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely great that Picard's like, hello, how are you doing? I'm Captain Picard. Ignore the huge gorilla in front of me. I'm very bad at communicating body language.
Yeah.
And it's like, so, Riker, why are you standing here in the foreground? Picard speak. There's a different language you're ignoring, Riker.
Right. When he did the in winter thing, that's where I got what was happening. And this episode... I guess it assumes you're not going to... it's kind of fun watching this a second time because I kind of know what he's saying now.
Yeah. It's great.
When the wall falls. He's saying he fell. And so they're trying to figure out how to like talk to them.
Yeah, and they're pitching ideas.
Right.
Ruri and Jungi, Zima Zanzo.
Yeah.
And then at some point he's actually going to pitch... Mirab, his sails unfurled. He's going to say, let's bail, dude. This isn't working.
Yeah. Right.
For those of you listening, this is the episode where the alien... It's Darmok, man. It's Darmok and Gelada Tanagra.
Yeah. I only recently came across this particular reference, and I'm over 35 years old, so...
yeah.
This was kind of impressive how... I mean, Worf would have been asleep at the wheel, huh? He didn't make sure that they couldn't teleport people off the ship? Like, what the hell?
Like, very few people are dicks on this scale. Like, the Sheliak, that's it. Only the Sheliak can be this dickish.
Right, but don't they always talk about, like, having their shields up, they can't transport anyone. So you would assume that if they had their shields up, then no one would have been able to transport anyone off the ship. seems like that would be like your first rule of contacting someone who you don't know what their intentions are, is to have your shields up or some way to where they can't teleport you into like a dungeon or something.
But it's a generally peaceful meeting, so their shields are down to avoid the appearance of aggression. It's a heck of a cold open here, because this guy just beams Picard down to a planet, pops out with 2 knives, holds up, like, what up?
Yeah, just gives like a knowing look to Picard, like, huh? Yeah, 2 knives. You know what's happening.
Yeah. And it's pretty great because we are adding a martial combative element to this. Like that comes completely from within us, because these people they want to communicate. They called us.
Yeah, they have a hunger. We have a hunger to communicate, but you don't know why. And we kind of get, this is a great episode when it comes to like scientific exploration. I talk about, it's hard to know what Starfleet really is. Sometimes it feels like a military, a navy, and sometimes it feels like they are just a bunch of nerds on a ship learning stuff, like in the Antarctic or something. And this is definitely one of the latter types of episodes, and it's good.
Yeah, no, it's this is considered one of the best episodes.
Oh wow, really?
Unapologetically loved. Oh yeah, I mean, is that a shocker? Or...
It is not. No, this is my only big criticism, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit before about this episode, is it assumes that the audience is not going to figure out what's going on until much, much later. And at least for me, that was not the case. Like, I figured out in the open, so. And
I think part of that, I'm not trying to like ding your cleverness or anything.
Oh no, I'm not worried about that.
As with TOS, a lot of the ideas they're introducing, and they go into society, and they sometimes become detached from the origin. Yeah. And then we live in a society with memes now, and this is the episode where the aliens communicate in memes.
Right. And to be clear, I only realized that they were communicating via some shared experience through metaphor. I didn't know like what they were saying until the end of the episode. And maybe they kind of felt that too. The writers were thinking, okay, some people figure out like what's happening, the differences in communication. I think Data even says it's like having the having the syntax without the vocabulary. And,
absolutely.
And so I think they expected you to get it at some point, maybe, and but they didn't expect you to know really the meaning until Picard kind of comes back from his hero's journey.
I want to note that directing this was very difficult. The director says like it was like directing Russian, because I know what it means, but I still need these actors to put the correct emphasis on it.
Come on, punk. Let's get a knife fight on. Don't be a wuss, Picard. Like, just imagine if Picard's like, all right, it's a little off balance, but I've been in Sketcher knife bites before. Let's do this. And then the guy's like, wait, no, what are you doing?
I mean, the guy's got like a robot heart from a previous knife fight.
I mean, yeah. So, this guy apparently is really into interior decorating, because he's got a lot of towel hangers on his person. Check his legs. His legs look like they're in braces or something.
Yeah, it's a costume for an alien. This is Paul Winfield, by the way. He played Captain Terrell in Star Trek II, the captain who vaporized himself instead of shooting at Kirk.
Aww.
Yeah, and he's a great actor in his own right. He's been in a lot of things. I think he's most famous for being in Sounder. But he's a great actor, and he does a great job under a lot of makeup in this episode. Yeah. Right. Because he has to communicate a lot of things with acting and not specifically dialogue.
Yeah, so. I like the eyes closed bit. It's good, because once he figures it out, he's like, eyes open.
Yeah.
And that's good. I enjoyed it. So, I mean, this gets frustrating because we tap into Will's, I understand intuition through gambling, sort of man of action reasoning. Yeah. And it's kind of bothersome because we haven't really even attempted to meet them on their own playing field.
they've abducted the captain, which is worth some kind of action. And what Will is doing is actually very smart and very in character, in that they've kind of put us in this adversarial position, it seems. I love that Picard fails at making fire.
Well, but he doesn't try again. Like, what the hell? Like, that kind of bothers me. He doesn't try at least a couple more times and fail. I mean, if you're in a survival situation and you fail to make fire, you know that heat regulation is necessary for survival. You got to try again, man.
We argue... We've established that Picard can't make the fire, okay?
Just give
He's
me
already
one
tried
more
20 times. He's tired of the fire.
Okay.
That was his
All
one
right.
more attempt.
That's fair. All right.
We've accepted that premise, and now we have to go into the part where he's dependent on Captain Dathon for heat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so getting back to Riker. So he's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do poker. I'm going to raise, and I'm going to see if they raise or if they fold
Right.
or what happens. And in the end, they actually raise exactly enough that Riker doesn't know what to do next.
Right.
Which is important information in its own right. But eventually Riker just jumps across the table with a freaking knife. And I'm like, it's not in the rules of poker, Riker.
Right. Like, we're not playing in poker for our lives. Well, I guess maybe he is. I don't know. But yeah, he definitely escalates it pretty large. I don't know what this is here. This is kind of interesting. You kind of feel like he's casting stones, but he was wearing these bits, and I kind of thought they were emblems, as if, his medals of captainhood or something. But he's taking them off and sort of casting them for however reason. Then he puts them around his fire, and we never really get, or at least I never really got what this meant, but it was pretty neat.
Well, I mean, look, they're a culture which communicates exclusively in memes. If you think he's not going to bring his own dice down to the planet, I don't know what you think of these nerd people.
I mean, yeah.
He's just rolling dice for fun, man. What else is he going to do?
Yeah,
I got a 3. This one? It's a nat 20.
Yeah, he's just like flexing on him the whole time. He's like, check these rolls, bro.
But no, I have no idea what they are in the context of the story. I assume they're just a unique cultural element to make the alien seem a little more alien.
So this is interesting how he takes one knife with him to sleep. My initial read on that was he didn't know if he could trust Picard. He was going to defend himself, but obviously it wasn't going to attack. But Picard's, just kind of like, all right, what am I going to do next? I'm like, you're going to try for a 22nd time to build that fire, or you're going to steal some fire. One of the two.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fairly... I mean, what he needs to do is to buck up, find a tree, and punch that tree until wood falls off.
I mean,
use the wood to make planks, turn the planks into a crafting table, punch more wood. Then he's got to get stone in mind.
So this is good. This is kind of this is a good way that the captain kind of he recognizes Picard has an issue and resolves it for him.
Yeah, and so it's complicated. He's kidnapped the captain. He's brandished some knives at him, and now he's going to give him fire. And in so doing, establish the basics of communication via a very simple interaction.
Right. I mean, this is essentially what CEOs do. They do this team building exercise. It's like, listen, I'm so rich and I don't really have any sort of duties that you lesser folk do. So let's go do some random thing together so I can understand how you live your lives.
Yeah, well, integrate the data about how you live your lives into my pre-existing perceptions of social and economic structures. But... The premise for this episode, the blurb, Picard is trapped on a planet with an alien who can only communicate in metaphors.
Yeah.
Showrunner Russell T Davies of Doctor Who, the Doctor Who reboot, saw that blurb and is like, I am not going to watch this episode because it piqued his curiosity so much. It gave him so many ideas. He never watched it.
Oh, because the premise was so intriguing that he didn't want it spoiled?
Correct.
Interesting.
And so he made a Doctor Who episode called Midnight based on that blurb.
Okay.
And Midnight is the one where the Doctor's going around with Donna. She decides to stay at a spa. He goes out on a tour to look at some crystals. and an alien that we never see infests the tour van and eventually like convinces all the humans inside the tour van to throw the Doctor out of an airlock. Midnight is a heck of an episode. There's no effects for the monster. It's all acting.
Yeah.
And it's just honestly one of the best. Inspired indirectly by this episode.
Here we go. This is kind of his gambit. Riker's gambit's kind of going. He's like, hey, how things are going? And I mean, at the very least, he's trying to keep his guys safe, even though he is technically gambling with their lives. Yeah.
And in a couple scenes, he's going to be like, wait, what if we tried communicating with them? I mean, that was the entire reason for this mission. Right. And that's where the mission went wrong. And that might be a way to resolve the mission. What if we just have, like, our brain person and our person get together to solve this before we start sending shuttlecrafts everywhere?
Right.
Because after the first 20 minutes of Dathon and Picard being in the same zip code, right, and no one's dead, like, you're like, okay, this is obviously a stable situation.
Right. And that's kind of what throws me, is that the only person kind of destabilizing this situation is Riker.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And it's so disappointing that we have Riker acting in character and he's still not ready for the big chair.
Right. And he could have done like some sort of thing like, hey, listen, set up like Geordi, this is what I need you to do. I need you to go find a space probe. I want you to hollow it out and give it any kind of thing you need for survival. Like just all of the survival stuff you need to like exist down there peacefully. And I want you to like just send it on a course to crash land nearby the captain's position.
Yeah, go full Hunger Games.
Right, exactly. Here you go. Here are the tools. And so at the very least, when they show up and like some real danger happens, you know, they can still negotiate it in a safer kind of engagement, because he doesn't, like, what the man of action trope always realizes is he has no power to affect the outcome. He can only ever hedge his bets. And so if he realized that sooner, then he probably wouldn't have been making this more difficult. But then again, we wouldn't have drama and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I like that Worf is like, oh yeah, what about this, Riker? Worf is kind of challenging Riker, and Riker's cool with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Riker's like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but we're not doing it yet.
Yeah. He's like, I'm into it, we can totally do that, but just as a last resort. And
we did gloss over it last episode with all the guys getting shuffled around to other ships, but we got McDuff here now.
Yeah.
Commander McDuff, who's sort of like the officer in charge of miscellany. But he is a dick, and I think Riker handled it.
He one-ups Riker, and then now I guess Riker's kind of acting like he has something to prove, so that's a little weird, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it's a good place. It gives us a little bit of stir in the roux, which this season does with new characters, and I think it generally pays off.
Yeah. And so this is he acting in good, not acting in good faith, is this proper survival etiquette? Going into another man's camp when he's away?
I really could not say. Because Captain Dathon's gone now, and Picard's just poking around, touching his dice, which is definitely unacceptable. And
you have to ask first, man.
You mentioned in the run-up last time that this reminds you of like a Kirk episode,
right? And
they're filming in the same spots basically. And
neat, yeah.
This reminds me of Arena, and in the middle of Arena, Kirk is making captain's logs, just like Captain Dathon is here.
Okay.
Picard opens the little logbook and he's like, just as I suspected, an incomprehensible alien language.
And it's really just like stick figures, like, and like with little cloud bubbles, like how they're talking to each other. Like basically his captain's log is like, it reads like a comic book.
Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, this is a pretty good a bit where we have Troy and Data working together, kind of breaking this down.
Yeah, and I've said it before, them being paired, even without some sort of direct goal to, quote, the mission, makes a lot of sense to me, because Troy has said that, Data I can't read him. He just doesn't have any emotions. And it seems like that if she has to flex her emotional restraint for everyone on the ship, then being around someone who doesn't have emotions might be helpful. And if Data wants to be more human, then she can also engage like her counselor skills. Like, hey, well, what makes you think that you don't have emotions? Or just go into this notion of what emotions really are. You could have had a whole bunch of character arcs between these two people that would have been super interesting. But what we get here is just, hey guys, left brain, right brain. Let's figure out the problem.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with this.
Yeah,
Troy doesn't get anything, but when you put her in a room with just one other person, because of the writing, they have to make progress.
Right.
And while this series is not above just having one person be smart while the other person goes, huh?
Yeah.
Nani?
Nani the fuck?
Yeah. When they choose, to actually have constructive dialogue, that means that by definition, Troy has to be useful.
Right.
And it's great. Anyway, so, and they're figuring out that Darmok and Tanagra are phrases from local culture from different planets that maybe aren't Tamarian.
Yeah, that's actually something. Yeah, that's actually something interesting as well. So they figure out through 2 SQL queries that there is one record that is intersecting between these 2 searches. Okay, interesting. So Darmok is a hunter. How does Starfleet know that if they've never contacted any of the Tamarians before? You wonder, is he of another society that has a relationship with the Tamarians?
Yeah. And Chantal so.
He's like, I know, I was reading your journal. He's like, forget about that, man. You got to fight. It's like,
oh no, it's such a great use of body language when he just throws that journal away. It's
right.
Great.
And then he looks around. He's like, oh man, we're in trouble. And this dude doesn't want to fight. It's weird.
Look, I locked eyes with the Enderman. He'll be here any minute.
That the way he delivered that line where he's like, Darmok and Jalada Tanagra, it was almost as if he were saying, this was my idea. I asked for it. Like, this is, I've made my bed. Now I got to sleep in it.
Yeah. I like that Picard's eventually slowly realizing in a very, methodical, well-written way what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's a very direct progress, right? Where now he's taking the knife. Now he understands.
Yeah, now he knows he doesn't want to fight him. And, I mean, it kind of is weird that he thought that anyway after the dude gave him fire, like, to not freeze at night. But, whatever. I mean, I guess...
Yeah.
It's more of the shorthanded television than anything.
And then, of course, like, for dramatic purposes, this beam out comes. I mean, the beam out comes logically from the EM monster, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But it's still, like, the most dramatic timing.
Yeah, and, like, this could have, he could have worked the whole thing. Like, imagine if the Tamarians could have understood what was happening, that this monster was attacking their captain, and at that very moment,
I'm sorry. This girl her name is Robin Leffler. She's played by Ashley Judd. Yes, of the Judd family, and she will actually appear in a later episode.
Cool, neat.
Trust me, it's important.
But
please continue.
So like they tried to get him out while the fight is happening, and essentially abandoning the captain in his hour of need. That could have just ruined this whole thing.
Oh yeah. And I think it's reasonable for them to want to get the captain out. I think saying, "Oh, he's in a dangerous situation. Let's leave the other captain alone that he's obviously not fighting with."
Look at that! Look at that sweater. That sweater is so over, like it's like a bag, like he's wearing a sack. Go get one of your size, Picard.
Yeah, it's not flattering. I think the uniforms have padding in them, right? The basic uniforms they wear.
Yeah.
Which I think is shitty because of reasons. But like Will Wheaton's uniform had padding in it, and it's like, dude, he's a teenager. Just, oof, that's not healthy. So, whenever you take that off, it looks like this.
Yeah.
And certainly this is better, but it is a drawing departure from what we're seeing. It's like, oh, Picard's just an old man. All right. No offense to Patrick Stewart. He works out. He's in shape. We see him shirtless later.
Yeah.
Like he's doing good.
Yeah. Better than I am, for sure.
But at the same time. So it's just like he's it just breaks the visuals that you were accustomed to with Star Trek. And if the visuals had been honest from the start, I think it'd be better. But regardless.
Yeah, maybe so. It's really frustrating how Riker's like, hey, where are we at on that transport? 2 hours. We need him now. Like, okay, 5 minutes. Like, I really don't like that paradigm at all. And especially when you see it so often in business folks at, like, my job. It's like, no, we told you all of these things couldn't happen for a reason. You can't just petulantly say, I want it now, and then magically it happens. There are reasons for all of these things.
Yes. And to the credit of this episode, Geordi's like, yeah, we can do it in 5 minutes. Probably won't work, but we can do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that is somewhat good. Like, he was trying to verify that all this stuff could work, and he's like, hey, I can try, but maybe we'll only get his legs this time, but we'll see.
And then as a result, like, that closes down that option. And it's very much, there isn't no solution. There isn't only one solution. There are several solutions, and we're trying them.
His eyes uncovered. Oh, man, I love it. I love how, like, he gets so excited when he understands something.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
It would be funny, too, if, like, this guy was just another species that's passive on their planet, but like was like coming to say hi. The first thing that happens is Picard knifes him.
Yeah. So
it's like some species are worth communication, but not all of them.
I mean, screw him. He
he's scared.
He's all like electromagnetic and stuff.
Yeah, he's not like us. He's not our solid bodies and our bipedal human looks.
Yeah. So this is some high drama, though. We get good action and we get good science fiction here.
Yeah, for sure. So I like that they aren't able to beam up Picard at this moment.
Yeah.
Because it would have been frustrating. And I kind of feel like Riker should be reprimanded somewhat.
Yeah, he definitely deserves a pimp slap once Picard gets back into the bridge. And because it's like, that Tamarian's dying after being really good for a while. Energy being's close. Seems dangerous. Yeah, let's just keep trying to beam up the captain. Sure, it's fine.
Yeah, Data's like, Riker, I'm concerned about the captain. He's the sun's setting, but he doesn't have any fire. Wait a minute. Fire from the other camp has made its way to the captain. The captain does have fire now. Oh, wow. He must have made it all on his own.
He must have stolen it with his telepathy. He even gets his shirt ripped, which is a pretty Kirk thing to do.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Showing some of those abs.
It's, personally, it's not worth starting a conflict over Picard. Picard's on the planet. Picard wouldn't want war. Picard's willing to die for peace.
Yeah, and that's
why is Will Riker starting a war?
Right,
Picard? That's
the thing that bothers me too. Is like, okay, let's say he's acting within the regs, quote unquote. He should know enough about Picard, as you say, to figure out how fast he wants to get to a heading by how frustrated he is. But he doesn't know that Picard would die for peace. That he wouldn't want anyone to. That he wanted to figure out like what was happening before we use any sort of martial solution.
Yeah. Riker's like, they took our captain. And it's just like, come on, dude. Just relax. Like, what is the Tamarian endgame? To steal one captain and put you in charge of the Enterprise? I mean, yes. Crippling blow to the Federation. But all the same, not that critical.
Right.
Like, what is your deal even? But he's driving the conflict, and he's driving it just like one man with a freaking 40 ounce in one hand, and the other on the wheel.
I mean, yeah, that's 100% true.
And this is an action show, and we call them Riker scenes. Yeah. Usually Riker's a little less instrumental in making them. Usually we just let the writers do that.
And so this is kind of interesting, too, that apparently there are these, quote, configurations that you can do for these phasers to make them have more utility in specific situations. So much so that he can kind of say, yeah, we have to pre-configure things, right, Worf? And Worf's like,
Yeah, like, it's all in your build, man. Look, I mean, it's all purple, but you got to slot it in and out.
Yeah.
Sorry, does that WoW joke work now?
No, I think it works. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I don't play WoW, so.
Of course, this is there. We get it. We get the Shakespeare. I was wondering how long before we were going to get a Shakespeare thing.
I think I said in the pre-roll that this is part of our cultural mytho-history, and therefore it works.
I mean, yeah. I think there are other bits. You don't always have to go with American culture. We're part of, American culture, even European culture, is interacting with other cultures. So we don't always have to pull from Shakespeare. We can pull from other places.
That's fair. You could say Quixote tilting at windmills.
Right. Or what was it? I got nothing. I had something and I lost it.
I could reference, one or two Russian novels, but those names are all word salad to me, so I couldn't really do it off the cuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'd be like Stokowski hitting Dostoevsky with an axe. And I'd be like, that's sort of Crime and Punishment. I feel like some key details have been changed.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what this was. It is kind of funny that he's kind of rolling up on him with two knives. It's like you couldn't even let him have one, Picard. Like, come on, man.
All right. The bad news is the hibachi bar is closed.
The good news is that I have these complimentary knives.
We're truly roughing it now. So
I only have one espresso.
We finally realized that they're speaking in memes. Picard's finally getting it. I think we've been led there very well by the story.
Yeah, this has definitely been a narrative to educate both Picard and the audience for this kind of contrived premise, and it's doing it well.
Yeah. And I'm usually like, oh, this should be a Riker episode or whatever, and certainly it wouldn't hurt if this was a Riker episode. Geordi is known for going to planets and making friends with people, but this is a perfect Picard episode.
Yeah, this is a good Picard episode, and Riker would have picked up that knife and started to go toe-to-toe with that dude. He's like, oh, you want a knife fight? Let's do it.
Riker would have picked up the knife and said, I don't want to fight. I'm not going to fight you, while gesticulating violently.
Yeah. And instead of just throwing it on the ground, he like throws it knife first into the dude's foot.
Picture Riker just drawing dicks in the sand.
What am I going to do?
It's the fundamentals of all communication.
Where does the dick go? This is what
the alien pulls down his pants and Riker's like, what? That's not either of the two things I'm familiar with. Communication's hopeless. Riker.
I do like that, Picard tries to further their narrative with a picture. He has like a representation in the ground of what he's saying. And he's like, this is good how he slowly, and the only thing I've ever seen this done, and it wasn't even as good as this, was in 13th Warrior, where the 13th Warrior is an Arab and he doesn't understand like Nordic speak, but after he, hangs out with them for a while, he eventually learns how they all speak together, and then that slowly, it goes from, the audience not understanding what the Nords are saying to everyone understanding what everyone's saying.
Yeah. So
and this does that a little bit better, I think, but the premise is still the same, and it's nice.
Yeah, I don't think we need to compare two great works of art competitively. 13th Warrior, Darmok. I mean, both great bits. But they are communicating in memes. I'm trying to figure out like what the modern version of this would be. If Picard would be like Dylan and Dutch, their arms clasped, their biceps flexed. Dathon and Picard, hands clasped, peace. So
dick butt smiling to the viewer.
Dathon leans back. Dick butt.
I have not met that meme in many years. But so here's the other thing too. This is one of the few times where earlier when Picard's like, "Hey, I'm an archaeology nerd," which by implication he's also kind of a history nerd.
Yeah.
His history nerd and liking a good mystery, it is served well here because he's slowly piecing it together, and it's really good.
Oh, he also does the his face black, his eyes red.
Yeah.
The commander pops that one up again once they get into actual shooting upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that means he's dead, or he's seeing the light, as we would say.
Yeah. Well, it's associated with death at the very least.
Yeah.
And again, there's like maybe a dozen phrases in here, but it's easy to miss how they rhyme and how they're reused, which again just builds on the episode, especially on replay.
Yeah, the replay here is pretty interesting, and this is one of the few times where when I'm watching this a second time, as we're kind of talking about it, I've gotten more enjoyment out of watching it than the first time. So this is well done.
Yeah. And
I like how he's starting to use like his terms. He's like, hey, look, I can't tell stories, man. And he's like, whatever, nerd. I want to hear cool stories. I like when he said you wouldn't understand me anywhere. It's like, you think you understand Darmok and Jalad Tanagra, Picard?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more that was going on. So when he's doing this, I'm like, all right, bring me the Shakespeare. When's it coming up? But he gives me Gilgamesh. Very good. That's very good ethnic inclusion, Picard.
I even as a wee lad, I expected some Shakespeare here. I think Troy primed the pump for us there,
right?
And also the entire rest of the series. But yeah. So it was good. I was not, and I'm still not familiar with the Epic of Gilgamesh. I've done some basic Wikipediaing on it, but
I'm not really conversant. Yeah, same. I mean, it sounds interesting. I want to be more familiar now that I hear this kind of Picard version in a few sentences.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for a lot of old stories, you read them and you're like, hey, wait, this is like, insert Greek story or insert Bible story. And you're like, wait a second. Have these things happened before? Are some of these Greek stories less than completely authentic?
It's almost like these Greek stories are retelling a story that's already been told.
Yeah. So, which is, I guess, part of the mytho history here. But,
right.
Anyway, it's great. It's my first exposure to Gilgamesh and Enkidu, and that was a reason for me to read up more on it. And that's also like a tiny message of this episode.
Yeah.
Of, our own history is important to us. These stories are elemental to who we are.
Yeah, that's true. And it's important to kind of see where all the stories come from as well, because the victors are the ones that generally write the history. So when you kind of look at all the different angles of history, you can kind of start piecing together what was really happening.
Yeah.
So there he is. He's gone.
Yeah. I think he lives through the night. No. Picard says he's gone forever. There we go.
Yeah.
I feel like Riker should shoot like a big cannon into the atmosphere with a picture of Dathan.
Right.
And this tribute has died. It's like, damn it, Riker, I told you to stop that. It's not classy.
Right. So, I mean, I assume, right, yeah, Data's like checking out. It's like, hey, the captain's dead. Our captain? No, theirs. All right, let's shoot him. What?
Yeah. Clearly, we're at the peak of our danger at this point. It's like, it actually seems like there's less danger.
They are coming right for us. Let's fire.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the Tamarians game is here. If Dathan's dead, then it seems like the whole gig is up, right?
Right.
Unless they need him to fight the monster. If that's just part of... Picard's just going to leave this dude out here. It's like, I swear to God, when I get back, I'm going to take Beverly's Cairn building. I will never leave a body on a planet uncovered by stones. It's just disrespectful, really.
Yeah.
So,
and I kind of like this here. He's like, hey, listen, I got to survive because he values the communication that they've had as much as the Tamarian captain did. So
yeah. And it's also important to make it clear that the Tamarian died for peace. The Tamarian died to communicate. He took that risk. And then our heroes screwed it up, and now that's definitely why he died. So anyway, it's an interesting little monster that we never have to explain.
Right. It seems somewhat intricate, but it could have just been done with CGI. I'm not sure. Were
those pinpoint hits? Those did not seem like pinpoint hits.
Yeah, it just seemed like pretty big hits.
Like they were just bukkake hits. They're just like everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we can focus it in the power feeds that directly link to their particle field. Are those particle fields and those power feeds
at that duck face.
Everywhere? So
right.
Yeah, and then Riker jumps across the table with the knife and he completely gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, sure. Riker, you're the creative tactics guy. Can you not? I know there's like 20 seconds left in the episode, dude, but can you not do something creative?
Also, like, where is Captain Picard? Like, can't he just say, like, Will, disengage all martial action? Open up a hailing freeze. I'm coming to the bridge. Like, we know that's what he's doing, but, we know they can speak throughout the ship, but Picard's not doing that right now for whatever reason. The reason is drama, but...
Those original effects shots had the phaser blast coming from the torpedo tubes. People kept writing Rick Berman about it. And he hated it. And they fixed it in the remaster. So please continue writing Rick Berman about that.
Yeah. All right, so this is good. So, he's like, hey, listen. He's like, you need to chill out, man.
Yeah, I like how he opens the communications to Lari. He's like, 1 second. Riker, bitch slap yourself. Shaka, when the walls fell. Darmok and Gelada Tanagra.
Yeah. On the ocean.
I'm really sorry. He gestures at Riker. Puppy on the carpet. Not trained yet. Darmok and Gelada at the ocean.
Pigeon parrot having sex with human photographer. Engaged.
Yeah. So, and Picard does great, and like he says all the things, and then he goes shaka when the walls fell. And you're like, wait, that's the opposite of what we got, Picard. Are you just saying things? Have you learned nothing, Picard? And he just starts saying things that the other guy said to him.
I like this. Picard and Dathan at L. It's it's such a good catharsis line. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, hey man, we're chilling out here. We're not leaving.
Well, they've done something. Yeah, they've done something that's now part of the mytho history. They've been incorporated into it. And I
like that, where he's like, hey, listen, are you trying to lead us into like a trap? I know about this trap. And he's like, nope, at rest. All right, cool. All right, good deal.
He's offering him the knife back. Timba, his arms open. He's offering the knife.
Well, when he first saw the Timbas with arms open, it was his arms open and then fist closed. I guess you can use it for two different things.
Yeah. Well, Timba, his arms wide, is sharing. The other guy's like, you're real. His fist open. You're real. His fist closed.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
So he was just offering the knife back, and the guy said, hey, you can keep it. And Riker's like, a new friend? And Picard's like, well, I managed to turn that L you were chiseling out into a draw. So we'll see how it turns out.
That L you were chiseling out. It's good. I like this. And the end scene here reminds me of the importance of patience when, pursuing either knowledge or a new skill. It was kind of refreshing. He's talking about how he's trying to kind of get up on these metaphors so that whenever they do communication again, he'll be more prepared. But they haven't succeeded. Like, he's leaving, they haven't succeeded, and he's expecting the next time he runs into them, they still will have work to do. And that shows that he's in the middle of the process, he's not at the end.
Yeah, which isn't in keeping with this series, but we take the idea.
Right.
And I think also, these are people whose mythology and culture is very tightly intertwined into all of their communications. Right. We're not like that. Like, we have a whole new level of communication that's churned up with like every generation of the youth. Yeah. Like, I made a Vine joke earlier, and you're like, yeah, TikTok. I'm like, oh yeah.
I keep up.
And like, that is the generative source of our cultural reference, and it would be nice. If that could be tied to older stuff, but we ourselves don't keep that older stuff fresh.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you have kind of these grammar, purists who are like, oh, you're not using that sentence right, or that's not a real word. It's like, well, language is always kind of evolving, so get over yourself.
So, but I also love that this episode takes a knife, an ostensibly violent tool, and turns it into a symbol of peace and communication. Yeah. Which is such a freaking Star Trek thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So, I enjoyed it. That's the end of our episode. Final thoughts?
So this is an excellent episode, for sure. I think that, for me, it was easy to be critical of Riker's actions because I felt as if I knew what was going on to some extent. Like, I knew that they were having some sort... Like, how they were communicating, I kind of got it. And I felt like you could have taken that and solved your problem from there. But they didn't. And so those bits of the narrative were somewhat frustrating. Like, oh, we got to shoot him. We got to do this. And it's like, do you? But everything else was great.
It is a good one. I have nothing more to add. I guess we could have made some Disney jokes about the use of our own mytho-history as capital. Yeah. But regardless, we missed it. It's gone. So
or the mining of just other folks' stories that are not Western, that are not, American as a way to make money.
So next week we are going to watch Ensign Rowe.
We have a picture of a woman wearing one earring. She looks like an alien because she has some sort of face prosthetic. I think I've seen this woman before. Her face looks familiar. I don't know if it's just through wandering the internet or commercials or whatever, but she looks very familiar. We're in the teleporter room, so that's pretty much it. I guess she's coming aboard the ship. And this is what we get from Netflix. A new officer, Ensign Rowe, is enlisted to track down a band...
I'm going to stop you right there, actually. Okay. She can't be enlisted. She is an officer. You notice how 4 words earlier it says officer, and how 3 words earlier it says ensign? She can't be enlisted. I'm sorry. There have been some pretty bad Netflix cards in our time, but that is the worst one. Please continue. I apologize.
All right. Is enlisted to track down a band of Bajorian terrorists. Yet Rowe, a Bajorian herself, must first win her crewmates' trust. Is it because she's Bajorian, or...
There's a lot going on with this episode. So we will see next week.
All right.
And until then, remember Rand. I'll make this short because no one likes credits. Star Trek is property of CBS Television Studios and Paramount Pictures, unless that deal went through. We are watching Star Trek on Netflix. We are talking over Discord and recording and editing on Audacity. The Beige and the Bold is hosted on Anchor and can be found on most podcasting platforms. I would also like to thank our senior officer patrons for supporting The Beige and the Bold. They also make video editions of this podcast and remasters of old episodes possible. So thank you to Tracker by Moonlight and Miss Jess. If you have any questions or concerns about the show, please contact me at vanvelding@gmail.com or on Twitter @vanvelding. Thank you, and remember Rand.